Welcome back, nonverbal students. I thought I'd try to sound a little bit like the weatherman, Dale Nelson. He always goes, welcome back. So I just stole that from Dale. So I am here again in my dining room, sort of breakfast nook in my house, because I got tired of my office. And I think y'all get tired of my office. So here I am again. So I am going to do just a little short mini lesson on Chapter 6, Kinesics. Do you realize with Chapter 6 we're halfway through the book? Cool! Very cool. I hope these videos are helpful. They're kind of fun to do. They're not real fun to watch back. Anyway, I have such a rubber face. I mean, I watch a little bit and I'm like, oh golly, I'm all over the place. But I can't help it. It's not like I'm going to control it. And at least I'm not monotone and super boring. I probably am a little boring. Hey, Kinesics, Chapter 6. Kinesics, maybe some of y'all have studied kinesiology, okay? Body movement, body motion, walk, stance, posture, stance, walk, gesturing, the way you sit, not just the way you stand while you walk, but the way you sit, okay? Body positioning, and technically, the face and the eyes are part of the body, but they are such massive channels of information that we study them separately. So that is Chapter 7 when we focus on face and eyes. So we're leaving that out for right now. I am on about page 185, and that's where we define kinesics. We owe a lot to Ray Birdwhistell. Ray Birdwhistell, back in the 60s, was one of the first people to really study body motion, bodies in movement, and what messages, what communication do we get from what we see people do physically with their bodies, their faces, and everything. So body movement is fundamental. And the first thing we start with is on page 186, which is posture. Did you ever have one of your parents? My dad did this to me all the time. You know, they poke you in the back and make you stand up straight, and, you know, sometimes it hurt, you know, it's like, ah, you know. And but it is important. American culture puts a lot of value on stance and on posture because we read into someone's posture how they feel about themselves, their self-worth, their confidence, their status. If we don't feel well, physically, mentally, emotionally, a lot of us, our posture is affected. Sometimes you may walk around and feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And it probably shows. Maybe a slump. Maybe you just can't hold yourself as upright. Okay? Sometimes there are physical conditions that don't allow us to be upright. Now, I'm going to say this, and I want you to take it, college women, like Auntie Ivy. I'm not your grandmother, I'm not that old. But Auntie Ivy, Big Sis Ivy, is giving you a little tip. Girls, I worry about how much weight y'all carry on your shoulders in these book bags. And most of you do not wear your book bags correctly because you just sling them over your shoulder and you are headed to the next destination or your car or whatever. And you are putting a ton of weight on that shoulder. And as women get older, we do have a big problem with osteoporosis. And it is a deterioration of the bone, and it doesn't happen to everybody. I don't have it. I might. In my 70s, I might have it. But y'all be careful with just having all your stuff in that book bag and not like going through it and cleaning it out on different days when you come to school. I know you want all your stuff, but y'all just load those book bags up and walk with them everywhere. And that may be okay in your 20s and 30s, but a little bit further down the road, you may regret that. So Auntie Ivy is saying, be careful how much weight you put on, and if you can, take a few extra seconds and put that book bag all the way on and not just on one side, okay? Okay, moving on. Posture. Albert Shefflin has given us some Well, here's another category system, a lot of categories, a lot of lists of things in nonverbal, as you know by now. And he has given us 3 dimensions of posture. I would like for you to take a look at those. First one is inclusive of non-inclusiveness, that's hard to say, and non-inclusiveness. This is when we use our body posture to include or exclude a person, okay? The next one is face-to-face versus parallel. If you are sitting on a couch with someone and you are faced out the same direction, that's a parallel position versus turned in where you are face to face. If you saw 2 people at a bar or a club or something and you wondered if they were flirting or if they were attracted to each other, people who are attracted to each other tend to do face to face, not parallel or side by side. Okay? So there you go, another dimension of posture. The last one is, let me find my place, congruence, incongruence. This is actually discussed on page 188. There is a fascinating thing that happens, and it's related to congruence and incongruence, one of Shefflin's deals. But have you ever heard people, particularly in romantic relationships, say that they can't get a rhythm or they're out of sync with their partner, or maybe they're out of sync with their spouse, or maybe even friends, you know? Well, there's this thing called nonverbal synchrony, and we talk about it on chapter 188. It's related to Shefflin's 3rd dimension, that's why it's right there. And there's 2 forms of synchrony. One is self-synchrony, okay, which is when your speech and body movement are coordinated within one person. Your nonverbals are coordinated, and your speech and your nonverbals are coordinated. And so that's self-synchrony. Interactive synchrony is way more interesting. This is when people do that coordinated movements between 2 or even 3. You could do it between more people, but we tend to think of it mostly between 2, okay? It's also called social rhythm. It's called the chameleon effect. It's also called postural echo. That's a little hoity-toity for my taste, but it's in here. It's in the book. Okay. So as people get into a rhythm, particularly like at a meal, let's imagine that we could all still sit down at somebody's table and have a meal together. Won't that be great when we get to do that again? Won't we all be just super social? Because we've just been so non-social with all this stuff going on. Anyway, imagine a dinner party, okay? And 2 people at one end of the table are in a rhythm. I take a bite, you take a bite. I take a sip of something, you take a sip. I get a second helping, I pass it to you, you get a second. Yeah, there's a rhythm going on, or a coordination of our nonverbals. 2 people sitting at the other end of the table may not be coordinating at all because they probably don't like each other very much, or they're having an argument about politics or religion or something, and their nonverbals look like they're at 2 separate events. They do not coordinate at all. You can see this happening if you know what to look for. Interactive synchrony is very, very cool. It's very interesting. Now, synchrony tends to be organic. It emerges as we find rhythm with people. But there's another version of it called mimicry. Mimicry tends to be intentional. It tends to be something you do to align your nonverbals with another person to accomplish some kind of purpose. Maybe to get them to like you. Maybe to get them to really be attracted to you. Maybe to be persuasive with them. Maybe it's because you want to sell them something. So mimicry is a purposeful or an intentional mirroring of another person's nonverbals. You can match their pace of how they speak so that you're not speaking so much faster than the other person. And it feels like solidarity if you match your vocal tone. If you match the level of eye contact. Maybe they're giving a ton of eye contact, more than you normally do. They're doing that beady-eyed stare down thing. Well, lock on if you want to persuade them about something or sell them something. Mirror what they're giving you. even if it's a little uncomfortable for you. So synchrony is organic. We don't always realize we're doing it. It's not usually purposeful or intentional. Mimicry is usually purposeful and intentional. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily unethical either. It's smart many times. It creates solidarity. It creates positive feelings. It can generate attraction, interest, a connection between people. So it doesn't have to be organic like synchrony for it to be effective. Something you can use. Okay, page 189, we start talking about power and status and dominance. A lot of what people do with their body movements is connected to wanting to feel powerful or wanting to power over somebody or wanting, to dominate or to appear high status. Okay? And so there's different positions that we take. One of them is the arms akimbo, and I can't demonstrate it for you very well because I'm sitting down, but it's just your hands on your hips. Now I want you to realize that when your hands are on your hips and they're facing front with your thumbs behind, that's one stance. But there's also one where your hands are behind and your thumbs are in front. I really can't do that one very well. It hurts my shoulders. I never stand like that, but some people do. It's a different version of arms akimbo. It's on page 190. Then, here's what I can show you. This is called the cape and crown. Don't I look like Beyonce? There's a picture of Beyonce on page 190, and she's doing the cape and crown. I think her outfit's a little prettier. Anyway, this is a very relaxed position. You put your arms up and your elbows out in the air. It's kind of a vulnerable position, but you have to be pretty dadgum confident to take this position with somebody, either standing or sitting. Okay? Very cool. I love this stuff. You know I do because I'm such a nerd. Okay, on page 192, for the next couple of pages, is information about walk. How you walk. You have a unique walk. If I saw you across campus and I knew you really well and I knew what your walk was, I'd be able to go, oh, well, that's so I know them because I could see them walking. Walk is very affected by our culture, by our emotions, by our physical health, our feelings that are going on physically and emotionally. And so I want you to think about how you walk. How do you walk when you're happy? How do you walk when you're excited about something? How do you walk when you're down in the dumps? How do you walk when you're worried? You probably walk slower and maybe with a more downward body positioning than when you are in an uplift kind of a mode. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because we're about kind of halfway through the chapter. And oh, there'll be another one of these. You're so excited. Woohoo! Okay, take care, nonverbal students, and stay safe.